If you need immediate help, please call the National Substance Abuse and Mental Health Hotline at 1-800-662-HELP.
Bottle of wine, fruit of the vine. When you gonna let me get sober? Let me go home and start over.
Welcome to Clean and Sober Radio, brought to you in part by Jefferson University Hospitals and Thomas Jefferson University, providing excellent clinical and compassionate care in the Philadelphia region, a proven leader in healthcare and education since 1825. And now, here are your hosts, Gary Hendler and Mark Sigmund.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us, and welcome to Clean and Sober Radio. Clean and Sober Radio features real people with real stories about addiction to drugs and alcohol. And I want to make mention, as we do each week, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that empowers people and families who are dealing with drug and alcohol addiction to solve their problems and help those who cannot. And we do it through direct advocacy, broadcasting, and maintaining a database of recovery centers and related information so we can help you get into treatment. Mark, what's new this week in recovery news?
You know how they always say follow the money? The U.S. Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, has identified $1.4 billion in fentanyl-linked suspicious transactions, naming China, Mexico, Canada, and India as key foreign touchpoints in the global production and laundering network. The analysis, based on 1,246 Bank Secrecy Act findings submitted in 2024, tracks financial activities spanning chemical purchase, trafficking, logistics, and international money laundering operations. They also found that Hong Kong, Canada, China, and Mexico were cited most often in fentanyl-related financial activities. So really what they did was they're following the money, and that's $1.4 billion. And what they're finding is the money is going throughout the United States. So who knows involved? I mean, whether you got politicians involved, whether you have, this dirty money, they're being able to see it throughout the United States.
And where there's money, there's going to be corruption.
Exactly. And I would love to see them just keep following the trails and uncovering possible politicians.
No.
I believe so, don't you?
That's hard to believe, Mark.
It is hard to believe.
That is
right?
really hard to believe.
So we'll see what happens, but I'll tell you, I'm glad they're actually really trying to look into this poison.
Yeah, in a promo that we wrote last night, it's a bad idea to get into a car either stoned or drunk, real bad. Real bad. And what happens is, after you're arrested, the first person that you're going to see after that, is, at least in Pennsylvania and many other states, is a magisterial district judge. And, it's not a real good idea to end up in a courtroom. And our guest today is Judge Christopher Mattox, and he is a magisterial district judge outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And when we come back, we're going to learn all about the process of what's going to happen to you if you get busted behind the wheel. And we'll be right back.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
A cancer diagnosis can knock the wind out of you. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health can help. Our brand new Asplund Cancer Pavilion brings you 86,000 square feet of cancer-fighting science for truly comprehensive care. Backed by the strength of an NCI-designated cancer center. Call 1-800-JEFF now. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health. The power to out-science cancer.
Hi, this is Dion, the Wanderer. Listen to Clean and Sober Radio. You might hear something that'll change your life. Yo!
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
Hey, can you always enjoy Clean and Sober Radio in Philadelphia, WWDB? Also, WPEN 97.5 FM, High Def 2. If you're in Augusta, Georgia, you can listen to us on WGAC. If you're in Tampa, Florida, WJBR, among other stations.
Hear ye, the court's in session. The court's in session now. Here come the judge. Here come the judge.
Hey, we are back. You know,
And
you're too young. You don't remember that song. That song was a hit record.
Was it?
Across the United States, and probably, I would say 1965 or 64.
When I was born.
And that's Judge Christopher Mattox. He's telling us he was born in what year, Chris?
64.
64.
Same year as my brother.
Judge, you remember that song?
I don't.
Really?
No, but I love it. And you know how baseball players have walk-up music?
Yeah.
That could be like my walk onto the bench music. That would be great.
It would be awesome. It would be, and the rest of it's great song too. You know. Hey, Chris Mattox, Judge Mattox, welcome to Clean and Sober.
Thank you.
Again. Judge Mattox is one of our greatest supporters for the radio show, and I've been privileged to be in court with him, not in front of him, but actually sitting next to him. And he's a fair guy. He's a caring guy, but he's a tough guy, and he needs to be tough sometimes. But we just think the world of you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks for being.
Pleasure to
being
be
with us.
here on this beautiful day and Good Friday. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's our Good Friday date every year.
Every year you come on Good Friday. Very good.
Did you ever tell them why? Because every Friday I'm in court doing criminal cases and traffic cases, but on Good Friday there's no court.
Oh, wow.
So this is the perfect day that I can come in and be on the show. So thank you.
So what the judge is saying to us, he's only here because it's Good Friday.
Yeah, and he was here last year, Good Friday,
You weren't.
right? No, I was on vacation last year.
Yeah.
And but every year, huh?
Yep.
Every year. Yeah. So you know, our audience might not understand or know what the different levels of court systems are, at least in Pennsylvania. The magisterial district judge system, I'm going to read this, and Chris, tell me if I'm wrong, in Pennsylvania is a system of minor court judges created under a 1968 Constitution. The system is designed to hear cases involving traffic violations, minor criminal matters, disputes between landlords and tenants, and civil cases such as contract matters and injuries and damages up to $12,000. After that, it would go to common pleas court.
Right.
So
I wouldn't say minor criminal matters. We handle all criminal matters that happen where we live in our district, and all of the Pennsylvania magisterial district judges must live in their district. Mm-hmm. They're elected every 6 years for 6-year terms, and any crime that happens in that district, any crime from petty theft on up to murder, starts with us. And I'll let you continue. But
well, let me first of all, you have been a judge for over 22 years. Is that correct?
This is my 22nd year.
22nd and 4 months.
Yes.
And 4 months. That's a long run. That means you're a fair guy. Community likes you. The judicial system respects you. That's pretty good.
I think it is. It's obviously an honor and a privilege to be doing it that long. And as I tell people, my daughter's only 12, so I'd like to go for another term after this one. So we'll see.
That's right. So, Chris, tell us about, let's say Mark or I get pulled over and we're either drunk or stoned. We're at the police station at that point. How does it get into your courtroom?
Right. So initially, you're put in a holding cell. Let's not use the two of you. The defendant is put in a holding cell.
Yeah.
And then they have to be arraigned. And in Delaware County, since COVID, we now have a judge on call from 9 to 4 on a weekday, 6 to 9 on a weekday, or 9 to 12 on a weekend and 6 to 9 on that same weekend to do arraignments. And that's the first thing that's going to happen to someone who is in that situation.
Are they always brought to you by the police? They don't come by themselves, do they?
No, but now it's all done by video since COVID. So they'll put them in front of a computer screen or a video screen, and we'll do the arraignment
From the police station. That's where they are.
And we'll be in Media, Delaware County. We have an arraignment room in Media where we do all the arraignments.
Right. And Media, Delaware County is a suburb of Philadelphia County.
Right.
Yeah, and quick question. So you said from 9 to 12. If somebody gets arrested, it's like 1 a.m. Does that mean they're spending the night?
Yes, pretty much until the next morning at 9 o'clock when the judge comes in. Similar with, like, if something happens in the middle of a day on a weekend, then, the judge will come in at 6 o'clock and then they'll do it then.
You've told me you get called in the middle of the night. Is that for
Yes.
warrants?
That's for search warrants and arrest warrants and things like that. There was, for instance, the last time I was on, there was a murder in my district. And I happened to be the judge that was on anyway, so they called me, and 911 calls me. And then, it takes me a while, so I call them back. You got to get it. I think it was 3 a.m. I think I was dead asleep.
And you're in your pajamas, right?
I'm dead asleep. But so I call them back, and then they say, "Oh, Detective so-and-so is looking for you." Okay, great. What's his number or her number? They give me the number. I call. Judge, we're sitting on the house. We have to get in. We need a search warrant. Okay, send it over. They send it over. So I go down in the dining room. That's where I keep my main computer.
Yeah.
And I have everything. And so they'll email me the search warrant. I'll print it out. I'll look at it. I'll sign it. And then you have to seal it. It has to have the seals on it. And then I can actually scan it back because I have a computer. I scan it back into the email and send it back to them by email. And that was all since COVID. Before, you always had to have a copy. They would come to your house. They would come to your house in the middle of the night. And I just thought, I had a young daughter at the time. I always said, hey, I'll meet you at the court. Yeah. Like, I would literally get out of bed, get in my car, and go to either to the police station or to my court to do the warrant. But now, since COVID, they kind of relaxed the standard, and we can just do it all at home.
Okay, so Judge, you approve the warrant, and you send it back to the cops?
Correct.
Where are they printed out? How do they carry it in the house?
They print it out on the email.
In their car?
No. They'll have somebody at the station that'll print it out and run it to them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. And then they can go in.
Right.
This is great because I've seen so many of these instances in the movies.
Yeah.
Where they come to their house and they want a warrant and they're in the judge is in their bathrobe and so it's real.
Yes, it is.
I bet you were pretty happy that you can still do it. You can do it on Zoom now.
Yes. Yeah. It actually, at first, there was a resistance because even with the arraignments, I want to see people in front of me. I want to get the feel for them. Yeah. And when you do it on video, it's not the same thing, but it has turned out to be a lot easier for us. So I guess I came around. And then with the search warrants, that's just even better because now I can scan it in and send it back, and they can just go on their way.
Chris, do you ever disagree
with
a search warrant? When you're,
if they don't have probable cause, we can deny it.
You deny it.
Mm-hmm. The judge, right? A lot of times now they're getting the DA's office to kind of author them or help them with them, so it's sufficient probable cause. But there's some departments that are either understaffed or they're just small departments, and they do them themselves, and sometimes they make a mistake, sometimes they don't. It's not rocket science, but it's kind of, I've always described when I go to the kids, I go to a lot of schools.
I know you do.
And I talk to the kids, and they always ask me about, probable cause or, prima facie for the standard for a case or something like that. And I always tell them it's like kind of when you write a good paragraph, who, what, where, when, why, how. You have to have all those particulars in the search warrant so that the judge can then make the decision, okay, there's enough probable cause here that exists that I can allow someone to intrusively go into someone's house or a locker or a car or whatever the case may be. And, they can go and they have to identify with particularity what they're looking for and why. So they have to, in other words, let's say there was a theft from a bank and, they stole $10,000 or something. So they're looking for money from the, Federal Savings Bank, $10,000, bill wrappers, blah, blah, anything associated with that. They have to specify it and then go in. And then when they go in, if there's something in plain sight, that's a whole different story. So they go in and there's drugs all over the table. Now they're already in there for a purpose, which was the bank theft. And now they see stuff in plain view, which now allows them to proceed on that.
They can't. Okay. Yeah, even though the warrant that you signed did not include the drug stuff.
Right, because it is in plain view. Now, if they go into the kitchen and they open up the cornflake box and they find some drugs and that's not on the search warrant, that's probably not going to hold up in court at the next level. That would be suppressed, as they call it.
I want to tell you how popular you are.
Okay.
Judge Andrea Duffy is watching
yeah.
you right now.
She's my colleague.
She's a great lady.
Yeah, great
right?
lady. Yep.
These are our two favorite judges.
It is, and I've had something I've always wanted to know if you
What?
don't mind me asking. So, if somebody's going through a DUI checkpoint,
Right.
I read on this site it was like never get busted or something like that. I read that all somebody really has to do is hold up their driver's license and their insurance. Like they're not required to pull their window down and all that because there's no probable cause.
Well, that would go to the police methods, but I've never heard that. I mean, but maybe you should have asked Superintendent Block that last week, which shows you how often I listen to the show, which is every week. But seriously, I've never heard that. And in fact, people often get in trouble when they go and they turn around.
Yeah.
They go after them. So, but that's really done at the police level rather than my level. So.
Judge, you went to Temple University's School of Law, James Beasley School of Law.
For my master's.
For your where'd you go to law school?
Law school, I went to Widener University.
Right.
And then I went to Temple undergrad for psychology.
Okay, right.
That was, yeah.
What a show off. Anyway, the only reason I bring this up is in Pennsylvania, you do not have to be a lawyer to be a magisterial district judge.
That is correct, yes. You have to take, so anybody that would be interested in the job would take a 6-week course in Harrisburg, full-time, like Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And then at the end of that 6 weeks, they would take a certification test. And if they pass that certification test, they're then eligible to put their name in a hat to run. So they still have to do the political shuffle after all that. Maybe get endorsed by a party or run against the party or just run as, Joe Schmo or Jane Doe. And if you're elected and you're certified and you're not a lawyer, you can still be a judge.
So here's my question. If you're not a lawyer and you get on the bench, a prosecutor can eat you up alive? Because
not necessarily.
Not really.
Here's what I always say.
Yeah.
Because I've had colleagues, non-lawyers, that I looked up to that I would ask questions when I first became a judge. They're that good. And then there was some, just like with the lawyers, there's some that aren't as strong as the others. So you just kind of, stay away. But once you're certified, once you're elected, you're the judge. So,
Did you ever think of running for judge?
I did not. I've never thought. Well, just now I was thinking. You know how you kind of fantasize. When he was telling this story, I was kind of picturing myself.
Listen, he did this last week when Superintendent Block told the amount of money that the police officers make first year. Mark was ready to sign up.
Like if you could see my brain, did you ever see those old cartoons where you can see what's going on in somebody's brain?
Right.
I pictured myself in a police car with a badge. You know.
Yeah, it's definitely. So you've been on quite a run. You had Superintendent Block from Montgomery County, maybe a little bit of Delaware County, and then you have me from Delco. So maybe Monco will be, or Chester County will be next.
Great idea.
We could. Or Philadelphia or Philly can't.
Philadelphia, correct.
So growing up, you did not have. I know you came from a very large family.
Yes.
I don't even know why I said that. Because maybe there was competition between. Were there 13 of you?
Yep.
13 kids.
10 boys, 3 girls.
Wow. How many bathrooms?
1.5.
So, and we're complaining. Wow. We're complaining. Seriously, how did that work? Did you take numbers like at a delicatessen, or how'd you get in there?
No, but I always tell people that's why I'm humble, because you couldn't have a chip on your shoulder in a family of 13. Someone would come right up and knock it right off your shoulder. So, and the funniest thing was, my dad's passed, but I would remember many mornings he'd be sitting on the edge of the bed just as the kids were all going in and getting a shower. And it was like clockwork. They were like one after the other going and getting showers. And my dad was just kind of sitting there on the end until like there was an opening, and then he would go in and get his shower and go to work. It was incredible.
I'm thinking if you have a weak bladder, you got big problems in that.
Well, we had the half bath down down the basement.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
So it was crazy.
Did you have a time limit? Did you have any of your brothers or sisters go in and they're 20 minutes in there?
Yes, but I think I took one of the longest showers too. I don't know why. I don't know why.
That had to be.
Did the hot water run out?
I don't remember that, but it was crazy. But and then the other thing I always say is just about when we would eat dinner, we would eat in shifts. So there would be like the first shift would be like 6, The second shift would be like the next 6. And then at the last shift, like the parents would do, my mom and dad would eat together by themselves. And I just thought, like, as I grew up, I didn't appreciate it. But when I got older, and I just said, they sacrificed their whole lives for that.
They certainly did.
Yeah.
So was there, you were a psychology major?
Yes. Yeah.
So you didn't have your eyes set on law enforcement at the very beginning, did you?
I did not. In fact, I tell the story that I was accepted to Virginia Tech, Northeastern in Boston, Northwestern in Chicago, to be a grad PhD psychology student / teacher. After a while, you were able to teach classes. And it was set up by my professor at Temple University. And he was taught by B.F. Skinner at Harvard, right?
Oh, wow.
And he told me, Harvard's not for you. I said, oh, geez, thanks, But
What did that mean?
I know, right? But anyway, he set me up to these 3 schools. And at the last minute, I took the LSAT, the law school aptitude test. I did really well. And I said, you know what? Maybe I'm going to give it a shot. So I went in to tell him, and he said, oh, my God. He said, you were my best student. I can't believe, and I tell people it's the first time, it's a joke. It's the first time I ever saw a grown man cry. He was like so upset.
This was B.F. Skinner?
No.
Okay.
No, the professor who was Dr. Heinlein, great guy. But anyway, yeah. So I wanted to do that, and then at the last minute I went the law route, and then here we are.
Here we are. Hey, if you're just joining us now, Christopher Mattox is our guest, Judge Christopher Mattox. Magisterial District Justice outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we're glad to have him. So you made the switch. Let me ask you this. Was there addiction in your family at all? Addiction?
Yes. Yeah, my one brother had pretty bad issue. In fact, I was saving up, because I had 13 kids in the family. I was saving up for Temple to pay for my university. And I went in, I had a summer job, and I go in my drawer one day, and all the money's missing. And I looked down, and I was like, what's going on? And he was in the other room. He's like, I'm sorry, I took it. And I said, you're dead to me. I don't ever want to hear it. My mom's like coming up, what's going on? What's going on? He stole my money. He stole my money. Yeah. And so, yes, I am very familiar with what happens in addiction and things like that. Now, he's great now, fine, completely new person, new life. And this was years ago. I mean, he beat it, pretty quickly. So it's been years and years and years. But yes, and then I also had a godson. But he wasn't addicted, but he died of an overdose during COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they think that it was fentanyl that was put in like something that he had for anxiety that he was taking. So it was legit. Like he wasn't an
accidental.
He was an honor student, and he died at right before his 21st birthday.
So
that really broke me up. I mean, as you know, I'm a very talkative guy.
Yeah.
I don't think I spoke for 3 days after that happened. It just really tore me up.
Absolutely. So if you're just listening to us now on any kind of device, you want to watch us, go on Facebook. Our page is Clean and Sober Radio, and you can watch us do the show right now. Like these folks, Debbie Reynolds, Mike Burke, as we said, Judge Andrea Duffy, Mark Willink, Rob Lohman, John Logue, Debbie Reynolds, Daryl Buman, many, many, many times. Let's see who else. You got anybody?
Did you get Lou Montana?
I didn't see Lou on here.
Yeah, Lou.
All right, come on, folks. Tell when you're watching us and you want to say something. Make sure you tell us where you are engaging with us. And I know that the judge always says he's in Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. Very, very interesting. I guess we're coming up on the next break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about with the judge how he handles, let's get into the drug cases and how they are handled. And when we come back, you're going to find out some very interesting information. We'll be right back.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
A cancer diagnosis can knock the wind out of you. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health can help. Our brand new Asplund Cancer Pavilion brings you 86,000 square feet of cancer-fighting science for truly comprehensive care. Backed by the strength of an NCI-designated cancer center. Call 1-800-JEFF now. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health. The power to outscience cancer.
Hey man, this is Ricky Byrd, former member of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, an inductee to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as of 2015, and I listen to Clean and Sober Radio, and so do my friends here, right?
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
We're back, Clean and Sober Radio with Judge Christopher Mattox. You know, that was Ricky Byrd who gave that drop just now, and he was with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts for years. She was born at Lankenau Hospital, which is 5 minutes from where we're broadcasting right now.
I did not know that.
Did you know that, Chris?
I did not.
Yeah. I got a lot of useless information in my head.
But I loved when he was on the show a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
He was great.
Yeah, he's great.
All your shows are
When
great.
he's played with
you.
Paul McCartney, and
Yes.
he's played with everybody. Hey, if you're just joining us now, or you're listening to us, you've listened to us, if you need help right now, either for yourself or a loved one, there's a phone number, and it's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Hotline in the United States, and it's 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-HELP. That's a number that you really should put on your refrigerator, just like poison control, because once you're in the midst of a bad situation with alcohol or drugs, a lot of times it's hard to find a resource to go to. And Mark, you have another very important number.
Yeah, there's another number, and that's 988, and that's the suicide hotline. You know, if you're feeling hopeless or having thoughts of hurting yourself, call that number and you will get help. And incidentally, this is the worst time of year for suicide. Spring is a tough time. And so check in with people if you think they're depressed. Don't be afraid to ask them if they're having thoughts of self-harm.
Yeah. Tell us again why this is the time of the year that is people are most susceptible to suicide. Is it because it's like sunny out, people are out walking around, and you think that things are expected of you now because it's beautiful outside, and it's you know you're hurting inside, and you see all these people apparently enjoying themselves?
That's a big part of it. I mean, there's it's kind of a two-pronged thing. You have that, but you also have some people are really depressed and out of energy in the wintertime. And then the sun starts hitting, they start getting more energy, and they actually have energy to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, where they're coming out of it just a little bit, but just sometimes people are so debilitated with depression, they don't even have the energy to think of a plan and how to do it. So there's a couple different reasons, but check in with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to speak with a real live judge, give us a call at 1-888-728-9941. 1-888-728-9941. You don't have to give your real name if you're in trouble, but you can get some good information from Judge Mattox for sure. All right. So, Judge, somebody comes in. I guess because you've had issues in your family, not many, and you've heard about it for years. How do you deal with somebody who comes in there, and you can tell they're not dealers, they need help?
Right. So in Delaware County, we have what's called second chance court. So when someone comes in for an arraignment, we will schedule a drug and alcohol evaluation at Crozier, which is interesting because that is going to explode soon because they're saying that Crozier is going to close down the last
It's a hospital.
last two hospitals.
Yeah.
It's a big issue, and I don't want to get into it now, but it's a big issue in Delaware County. But anyway, so the second chance court, we order the drug and alcohol evaluation. So we do set bail just to get them to that drug and alcohol, even though there's a push now to just not, put cash bail on people. The law of Pennsylvania is that are they a danger to a community? Are they a danger to themselves and others? If they are, bail's appropriate. So I still do that, but I can tell you that there's a big, big push from certain organizations to just do away with it and just release people. And I'm not going to, maybe, talk about it now, but I just follow the law right now. So the law is what it is, and that's what I do. But so we order the drug and alcohol, and then they're brought back for their preliminary hearing, and then they're sort of fast-tracked in the Court of Common Pleas. So that's helpful, I think. I think I told you once, not on the radio, but and I had a traffic case, and the woman came in, and she was very upset, and she owed $2,900, and so I said to her, I said, "Ma'am, what's going on?" "Well, I'm an addict, but I'm good now. I'm taking care of my 2 grandchildren. I'm just afraid I'm going to get picked up on a warrant. I just want to answer to this today. I don't want any issues. I don't want any trouble." And I just kind of said, "Well, were you ever incarcerated?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, for a little while, but I'm good now." And I said, "Okay, it's time served." And she just looked at me. I said, "Time served. You're done." And she started crying, and she's like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." I said, "Don't thank me." I said, "Thank me by go taking care of your 2 grandkids." And she went out. My clerk was like, "You're good. You're good to go," because she
Wow.
couldn't believe that the judge would do that. But so that's sort of a way you can kind of put yourself in and make, as I say, this job, we get to make a difference, and that was helpful. And I think that is part of what judges can do in these cases where people are addicted or formerly addicted or in recovery or whatever the case may
And
be.
especially, you're the first line that they come in contact with,
Right.
and you can make a difference in somebody's life forever.
I had another case where I put bail on the woman. She was upset. She was crazed. She just didn't want it. And she came back the next week and she said, "Thank you, Judge. You saved my life." So,
That must feel good.
yeah, definitely. It didn't feel good putting her in jail, but it did, that the fact that it gave her enough time to sober up or think about it and realize that I was trying to do her the favor and do her the right thing so that she could then move on.
And then obviously, if somebody's brought into you because they're busted because they were dealing, it's a whole different story.
Whole different story. Yeah.
Whole different story.
And I wonder, you mentioned that, it's got to be tough, and I'm wondering that, like, when you have somebody in front of you where you see, maybe drugs was involved, and you have to send them off to jail. What's that like for you? Do you take that home at all? Is it difficult for you?
Yeah, I think some cases it is. I mean, you can see. I've already said before, I don't think jail is the place for people that are addicted or have problems. I mean, as we said, that drug dealing is a different issue in my mind. But no, I more hope that we can get them somewhere to where they can get help, and then go from there. And I think, as Gary often says on the air, that the courts and the judges are coming around these days. And I think they're realizing that, and I think that's where the push is these days.
We have a program, as you know, Judge, called the LETI program in Pennsylvania, Law Enforcement Treatment Initiative. And I believe that was started under Governor Shapiro when he was the Attorney General.
Yeah.
And tell me if I'm sort of right on this. It's a program where the law enforcement is empowered with making a decision to get somebody into treatment instead of getting them into the system when appropriate.
Right, if they come and ask for help at the station.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't involve the courts, but
It doesn't involve the courts.
No, but that's exactly what is going on, and I think that's helpful too.
Yeah, and as you said, Mark, I think law enforcement, it's starting to understand we can't incarcerate everybody to get out of this addiction.
Yeah, I mean, I see it as a counselor.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are on probation and things like that. And there's some people that it seems like the only way they're motivated is if they have, a probation officer or something like that. Like, I see people get clean because of the pressure,
Right.
Which is nice to see. And, I was also, wondering, like, are there times when you have somebody, they come in looking for a warrant, this is a really bad guy, and they don't have enough for the warrant? And are there times when you're like, man, I wish I could sign this thing, but I just can't because of the law?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm glad you said
Good
it
question.
that way, because I would, they have to have enough, and if they don't, then it's got to go. But yeah, it would bother me, definitely.
Yeah.
What's it like? You have so much power. Look, I know in common pleas, they have the power to put people to death, basically.
Right.
But you have so much power to do such good work. Right. It's like what we do here. We help people, we hope we help people. You really, as I said about 5 minutes ago, you can change somebody's life, which means their whole family forever.
Yeah. And I've had this case, like the one time it was another up. Dad, I got it now. She's in front of me.
What was he trying to prove?
He was basically like, Judge, please don't, he was pleading for her big time. And I just said, I just shut him down. In a nice way, I was like, Dad, I got it from here. Okay. Have a seat, but it made me feel good that we're going to get her there. Okay. Just have a seat. We're going to make this work out. But yeah, that's the best part of the job is that we can make a difference in people's lives, and just so people know, it's kind of like a triangle. The MDJ system is at the bottom, and that's where it's widest. That's where you see the most people.
Yeah.
Then the next level up is common pleas. They see a little less, and then above that, it's the appeals courts, less, and then the Supreme Court at the top. They see the less. So at our level, we see the most people and the most cases. And as you say, we can probably make the biggest difference.
Absolutely. Mark, I couldn't be a judge. You know why?
Why?
I'd let everybody go. I would feel so bad for them because I would think, God, and Chris, did you ever think, hey, wait a minute, what if I was standing where the defendants are, not on the bench? How would I feel? I mean, because it is intimidating,
right,
for somebody to come. You're in a black robe. You're elevated off the level of the floor,
right,
and it's intimidating,
right. But you've been in court with me 3 times, and you've even said it. I treat everybody with kindness and respect.
Yeah, he totally does,
and I respect, I expect the same thing back.
Yeah, I mean, you've told me people go cursing the judge out.
Oh yeah.
Well, in a case like that, that's the other thing. Do you put them in contempt?
Well, we don't have contempt powers, but we could call the police. I'm going to say I've been doing this for 22 years. There might have been 4 times, probably a handful of times, that I had to call the police to have them come and remove someone from the court, and then they can kind of cite them for disorderly conduct or something like that. But the magisterial district judges don't have contempt powers. So I joked with Gary one time. The lawyers would come in late and stuff, and one of Gary's friends was in front of me, and I said, well, it's a shame I can't hold lawyers in contempt. And the lawyer was chuckling and laughing because he knew what I meant. But no, we don't have contempt powers. But I mean, as I said, if you treat people with kindness and respect, you usually get it back.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. Usually. How would you do as a judge, Mark?
I think I would have a lot of conflicts. I mean, conflicts. I'll give you an example. In Jersey, they have this crazy draconian law of, if you have a BB gun, you could do 3 years in prison if somebody catches it. And it's probably designed for people who are actually hurting people. And I was wondering, are there ever times when you're like, man, I just, it must be so hard. Like we were talking before the show, like you're able to look at both sides. But are there times when you're like, man, I wish this guy didn't have to go to have this charge?
Yeah, and again with the charges, the Commonwealth has to prove the case.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the defendant has either a public defender or a private attorney, and Gary would always ask me, can you dismiss cases? And yes, I can. If they don't prove the case, then the case is dismissed. Now, in Pennsylvania, they can rearrest, and they have sometimes. If it was like a serious case and they just didn't have the witnesses or the evidence at that particular day, and then it's dismissed by the judge, and then they come back and they rearrest, but the rearrest has to go in front of the same judge.
Oh, man.
You can't judge shop, in other words. So
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I've had cases like that. I had a really serious case where I didn't even feel right dismissing it, but I had to because I'm fair, and they didn't prove their case. So I dismissed it. And sure enough, the rearrest came, and it was assigned to me again, and they had their evidence that second time, and it was held over to court. So that's the way that went in that particular case.
Every case begins with you, no matter how serious it is.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Whatever it is.
Whatever
Rape,
it is.
murder,
Yeah.
armed robbery.
Correct.
Starts in
every criminal case.
criminal case.
Starts with us. Through the arraignment to the preliminary hearing, and then arrest warrants and search warrants, things like that. All that is taken at our level. And then after that, it gets held over at if it gets held over at the preliminary hearing, it goes to the common pleas.
Common pleas.
Where then they take it, and then it's like TV. There's trials, juries, whatever.
Mark, I'm always surprised with Judge Mattox that there's no security in his courtroom.
Well, I was thinking.
Don't
I'm
advertise that now. Just kidding.
Oh my gosh! Like you said, there's no bailiff. There's no. I always picture like there being one security guard.
But the judge has a machine gun under
No.
that roof.
I have a panic button. I don't know how.
You do? Do you have a panic button?
I do.
That goes right to the police, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How they can? Have you ever had to use it?
Yeah, we used to be in the police station before COVID.
Oh, that was beautiful.
And I hit the button, and like 15 people came running down, guns pulled. It was
Oh, wow.
Oh, it was crazy. Yeah, but yeah.
And you were just like, I'm just joking.
No, I
I'm
wasn't
kidding.
joking. No, it was an issue. I just don't want to say what it was.
Yeah.
But like somebody got really out of control, like threw a chair at
Oh,
somebody.
wow.
It was nuts. Yeah, it happens. It happens.
You know this, that I'm one of the directors of the Montgomery County Correctional, and I brought up this fact last week that I thought every district judge and every judge in common pleas should tour the county prisons
Absolutely.
to see where they are sentencing people.
Absolutely. And I told you before
Yeah.
that I used to, when I was a lawyer, not
Yeah.
a judge, I represented the Board of Prison Inspectors, the wardens, the guards
Yeah.
at Delaware County. Then once I became a judge, I couldn't do that anymore. So I didn't because that's a conflict. But
Right.
in the association, when I became president in my second year as a judge, which
Mm-hmm.
is now 20 years ago, I suggested that we take a tour of the prison, and I set it up, and we did. We set up a prison tour for all the judges that were interested. It wasn't all of them, but it was a lot of them.
How did that make? So did that make a difference in how you would sentence somebody? I mean, really knowing the conditions.
Well, we don't do much of sentencing, but it makes a difference in that you see where they're going to while they're waiting to come see you for the preliminary hearing.
Yeah.
And your eyes are opened. I knew it already because I've been through it. I told you I did depositions in Graterford, and the inmates were letting me in and out the doors into the deposition room as an attorney. Have a good day, sir. But it's in Graterford. That's what it was.
That's a state penitentiary.
Yes.
Which is now Phoenix, and that's the prison that Bill Cosby was in
Yes.
for a while. Just joining us, you want to speak with Judge Mattox, give us a call at 1-888-728-9941. We're talking about, arrest, drugs, not drugs, what happens, the process. It's very, very, very interesting.
Sure is.
Isn't it, Mark?
Oh, it is.
We're lucky, aren't we?
We are. And I don't know if we're right up against the break, but I wanted to ask you real quick, how much fentanyl issues are you seeing at your level of, dealers that are dealing fentanyl? And
Well, most of the drug cases go out to Judge Stroll.
Okay.
So I don't really see that. But I mean, as far as arraignments and stuff, you see it. And it's, I don't know what's going on, but it's not as much lately for me when I'm doing arraignments. I'm not seeing as much issues with that lately. But
Good.
I don't know if that's system-wide or just the days I happen to be on doing arraignments. But and Judge Stroll, I think, is retiring this year, so there'll be a new judge there. I don't know if they'll give the new judge the drug court. It's called drug court. It could be moved around to another judge, but that judge would probably have a better opinion as to if it's still as prevalent as it was. But I know from listening to the show, it's bad. I mean, it's a bad issue.
It's bad. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'd like to know if there's any correlation that you see in your courtroom with landlord-tenant disputes and addiction. We'll be right back.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
A cancer diagnosis can knock the wind out of you. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health can help. Our brand new Asplund Cancer Pavilion brings you 86,000 square feet of cancer-fighting science for truly comprehensive care. Backed by the strength of an NCI-designated cancer center. Call 1-800-JEFF now. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health. The power to outscience cancer.
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
And we are back. Clean and Sober Radio out of Philadelphia. Our guest today is Judge Christopher Mattox, is a magisterial, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
District Justice outside of Philadelphia. That's the first guy you'll see after you're arrested for DUIs or just getting pulled over for, alcohol or drugs. And Judge Mattox is a great guy, but you really don't want to go in front of him. Don't you think, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, he abides by the law, right?
Yeah.
But fair, sees both sides. You can just tell.
Yeah, I always tell the kids when I meet with them, I would love to see you, but I'll see you on the football field or at the concerts with my daughter, with the music concerts and things. I don't want to see you in court.
You love your work, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
You love it.
Absolutely.
I think that is the greatest job of all time. You know that?
I think so.
The respect, the power, control. I mean, when I say power, you just have the resources and the options to make such incredible decisions that affect so many people. That's pretty powerful stuff.
It is. Absolutely. And, do you ever get, I've asked people this before, but do you ever get worried about you put a real bad criminal in jail that they'll come back for retribution on the outside?
I don't, as I said before, because I treat everybody with kindness and respect, and including, hardcore people. But there's times I'll be walking with my daughter and I'll hear, "Hey, Judge," and I'll be like, "Is this a good one? Or, is this a good one or a bad one?"
Yeah.
And of course, my daughter's a black belt in karate, so everybody says she's my protector. She's 12.
Yeah, she protects you.
She had a junior black belt, and then now she has a senior black belt.
Oh, wow.
And actually, last night I was out, and a gentleman grabbed me and he said, "How's Christine doing? Is she at karate tonight?" And I said, "Oh, no. She's at mass tonight serving. She's an altar server." So they all know, I put a lot of stuff positive on Facebook.
Yeah, you're respected and liked in your community, aren't you?
I tried. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's the whole point. Yeah.
You and I should go. Well, I probably can't because of the age, but district judge.
I mean, well, the same thing happened last week. Gary and I were talking about becoming cops, and he said the same thing because of the age. So this happens every time we have an interesting vocation on here, Gary.
Well, I think you two are doing great as what you're doing now. So I hear all with the counseling and the real estate and then this show.
The prison is my favorite.
I know. I hear it all, and I think you guys are doing great.
Thanks, Chris.
I could just see you in a black robe.
Oh, man.
Of course, tripping when you walk out. And,
I would love to I want a uniform. You know what I mean? I want like
what kind of uniform?
I don't know. Cop, FBI,
how about
judge.
How about an orange jumpsuit?
That would not be cool. I do not want an orange jumpsuit uniform, but a badge would be real cool.
Right.
Yeah, you're the same way. I'm looking at Gary.
I have one.
Gary, yeah, I know. Gary's got all kinds of,
cool stuff.
Fantasies.
Yeah, a frustrated law enforcement, right? It's funny that we love that stuff, knowing where we came from.
Oh, I was terrified of cops. Terrified.
Well, that's when respect, when people gave respect.
Oh my gosh, I was terrified. I mean, but I wasn't doing good stuff. But yeah.
Oh, he has a lengthy criminal record.
I think
one jaywalking, was that the one?
No, I'm a wimp. I've got a little tiny criminal record, like a DUI and like stupid disorderly conduct.
How long ago was that, Mark?
Believe it or not, at this point, let's see,
30?
28 years ago, 27 years ago.
Yeah, we always joke that we thought it was more because this is the first time you're here with me, and this is probably my fourth or fifth time being here. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we always said, there's something, we got to find out what's in Mark's. He doesn't want to face the judge.
Judge, if you found out that he had an outstanding warrant right now, would you call somebody to pick him up?
No, I'd stay out of it.
All right. That's pretty cool.
I hit you with paper. Okay.
Mark
has, everybody knows he had an accident. He's got a broken wrist. And anyway, we have a little time left. If you want to talk to Judge Mattox, call us, 888-728-9941. So it's so interesting to get your perspective because you're the real deal. It's not like we're wondering, what would a judge do in this? Chris is telling us.
Right. And you had mentioned landlord tenant. I do that. I do that as well. And there is definitely people that are just struggling, and they come in front of you.
Or violent. They get violent.
Yeah, but there's only so much that I try to explain to people. There's only so much you can do in a landlord-tenant situation. I mean, there's a lease, and if there's not a lease, it's month to month, and the notices that are due and the ability to evict someone is accelerated when it's month to month. And there's some heartbreaking stories. I mean, I got people coming in. They got 3 kids on their lap, and
how do you deal with that?
You don't. I mean, it's tough. Everybody says, is that the criminal cases don't bother me at all. It's the landlord-tenant cases where someone's going to get evicted, and they're going to be out on the street, and they got kids. And it's tough. But again, I have to do what There's certain things you can do, but you have to do what the law requires you to do. And the landlord's coming in, he wants a fair shake, and the tenant's coming in and they want a fair shake, and you have to make sure that under the law, you make sure that the situation is dealt with. But I had a unique situation yesterday where I told the lawyer, I said, listen, let's hold this off for 2 months and work it out with this, and they both agreed to work it out. So sometimes you can do things like that, but as one litigant pointed out, they don't want a social worker, they want a judge. That was a landlord that wasn't happy with one of my decisions one time, and I just said, well, okay, but I'm just trying to resolve the issue. And because as you you can evict someone, but they can appeal it, and then you're stuck for 9 months.
Oh wow,
waiting to be heard in the court of common pleas. So I think it's always better to try to get the parties to work it out if they can. And as I say with anything, and it's apparent when they come in front of me, if you guys would communicate, we wouldn't be here even right now. So just use the ability to communicate to resolve these issues and move on.
Look, you have a job,
right?
Like any other job, you have to make difficult decisions.
Right.
Now, your job, it becomes more maybe emotional, and I'm not saying personal, but emotional because it's not about dollars and cents usually. It's about families, who are struggling.
Yeah. So like I said, there's some things we can do, but again, I try to get both parties in on it. And there's a push to try to get like a mediation program for landlord-tenant in Pennsylvania. It hasn't come to fruition yet, but I know Shapiro was pushing it as a governor. I know some of the bar associations have been talking about it. I think that would help. I think mediation would help.
Do you ever, when you're in your courtroom, do you ever tell people, get together right now and resolve this? Do you ever have that?
I don't tell them, but I say if you want to, there's go out in the hall and talk, and then if we have to have a hearing, we'll have a hearing. And so, like a civil case, that's how they typically handle them. The landlord-tenant cases, sometimes they'll do that as well, which I like.
Judge, if you weren't a judge, what would you be doing right now? What do you think you'd be doing?
Probably psychology professor.
I think you'd be a teacher, right?
Yeah, probably.
Professor. Well, listen, the community is very fortunate to have you in your position, and I'm getting notice right now from Tyler. You better stretch this out.
We could do that easy.
We could easily do that. Any last words of advice? Don't come and see me. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I read your promo, and I'm like, they must think I'm evil or something. You don't want to go in front of this guy. But no, I mean, I just think, listen, if you do come in front of me, you're going to get a fair judge, and you're going to get somebody that has seen it, has been through it. I got a big family. I'm pretty communicative with people and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend coming. Okay. If you can avoid it, it's better.
He's like the guy who owns a restaurant, doesn't want you to come. Hey, listen, thanks, Chris, Judge Mattox, for coming in with the show.
Thank you.
Remember, if you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, help is available. Please call 1-800-662-HELP. For Clean and Sober Radio, I'm Gary Hendler.
I'm Mark Sigmund.
And thank you all for joining us, and thanks for all the support that you give us each and every day. Take care.
I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves, and I hope we pass the audition.
Thanks for joining us, and have a great, safe, and sober weekend, guys.